Hey guys, it's Holly. So just over a year ago, I visited Galaxy's Edge for the first time, and knowing that I was going there, one thing that I really wanted to do was do the whole Savi's workshop lightsaber experience. I had never owned a lightsaber, and being a really big Star Wars fan and a really big collector as well, I wanted to try it out, but I was never sure whether or not it was going to be worth that price point, and I also had major worries as well, trying to figure out how on earth I was going to bring the lightsaber home considering how big the blade is. And now that I've owned it for a year and also tried out other lightsabers, I thought it would be really interesting to sort of talk about my whole experience with the lightsaber, whether or not I think it's worth it, and basically review it and give you the gist of whether or not I think it's actually worth that money, especially considering the price of that has gone up even more now. When I was doing my own research for Savi's workshop, I know a lot of people said at the end of the day, you are paying for an experience, and I do believe that to some extent. However, there are different specialty, I guess, character lightsabers that Disney does. You can buy Darth Vader's, you can buy Leia's, Ahsoka's, Count Dooku's, Ezra's, whatever. So they do have ones that aren't really licensed to a character, and if you do want one of them, I definitely think that is worth looking at. But the whole reason I wanted to get a Savi's workshop one is because I thought it would be fun to just have a custom one that is my own lightsaber, and the whole experience did look really fun, but that was not necessarily what I wanted to be paying for. And while the experience is fun and all that, and it's a really cool thing, especially while you're there, I definitely don't think that you should be paying that type of money if that is what you are really after. You really gotta want a lightsaber and want a custom lightsaber, I think, to go and spend the money on this. The experience is definitely an extra, but you also need to consider the fact that you were gonna have to carry this around Disneyland. Now, there were services where you could drop things off and pick it up again at the end of the night. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. My dad actually ended up going back to our hotel, so he took it with him, so I didn't have to carry it. But that is also another thing I kept in mind, is when I booked my booking appointment, I made sure to book it late at night, so that way I wasn't stuck carrying this thing all day. In fact, I actually booked my one at 8 p.m. or something like that, or maybe it was 8:30, and by the time I came out, the fireworks were actually going off, so you could see the whole thing from Galaxy's Edge back by the Falcon and Smuggler's Run, which was really cool. It was nice and quiet at that point as well, and overall I think just made for a much better experience. Now, with the Savi's Workshop lightsabers, of course you get the lightsaber, you get a kyber crystal, and you should actually get a little carry bag along with that. Now, when I went to the experience, I was really relying on them having that carry bag since I had to take it home. However, they had actually run out, but instead of leaving us with nothing, they did actually let us pick 2 kyber crystals instead, which was really cool because I was tossing up between getting violet and getting blue, so I ended up getting both. I was told as well that there were other carry cases that you could buy to sort of transport it around, and unfortunately as well, they had run out, so I was sort of screwed in that area, but it worked out fine in the end. But the actual lightsaber is really cool. I went for sort of a basic Anakin looking type of saber, and overall I absolutely loved the design. It was really fun to piece it together. It's also really simple to assemble, it's nothing complicated, and you're probably gonna end up having a saber that perfectly matches a lot of other people in the end. There was a couple of pieces you could pick from, but basically once you had picked your style, you're really set with one of 2 options in order to make your saber. Now, this whole thing is very heavy. This is a lot heavier, and I guess just a lot more well-made, I want to say, than the other lightsabers that I've seen. I guess besides all of the other Disney ones, this thing is hefty, and each thing is its own little twistable component, and then you get this plastic shell on the inside. In order to save battery life though, I usually leave this bottom cap a little bit untwisted just so that it's not constantly putting pressure on it. That way I don't always have to replace the batteries. It also starts to make weird noises when it's dying, so it could wake you up in the middle of the night if, like me, you've got it in your bedroom. Otherwise, in order to swap the kyber crystals, it's really easy to do. You just sort of have to untwist a bunch of different sections and pop these middle things off, and you'll see that it just sort of sits there right in the middle. Now, this is really where I feel the Disney lightsabers vary from other brands. I know I've tried N-Sabers ones before, and most other lightsabers like that, you just press a button and the color of the blade switches, whereas this one, I guess, is a lot more realistic to the canon of the Star Wars universe, where you have the crystal in the middle, and then you can swap it out if you want different ones. In total, currently I own 3, and that, I guess, is kind of the annoying part, is you've got to buy everything separately. You also don't know necessarily what colors you're getting. In the case of the red one, you could get a black crystal, which is super rare, so it's kind of hard to collect them all. They're also really expensive. Each crystal is I think 20 bucks each. It's not the cheapest thing ever, and I definitely want to have more colors just because I think it would look cool. So I got purple, which is really what I stick with with most of the time. I haven't used blue that much, honestly, and I've tried red like 1 or 2 times, but what was really interesting about it is it actually like changed the color and sound effects, which was pretty cool. Though because of the price of everything, like I definitely do not see myself buying like every single kyber crystal. Like I just don't think it's worth it, and if you really want a lightsaber that has a ton of different colors, I think you're way better off getting like a replica from another company. Now, another thing to note with this saber is that there aren't actually any like sound options. Like as you'll see as I sort of turn it on, it is pretty loud, and then when you've got the blade in, you flip this up and it will make a nice little noise. It can tell though when there's nothing in there. There's like sensors on the top, and the blade overall just like sits in and you twist and it's ready to go, which is how I transported it home. I took it apart and I wrapped this basically in a ton of clothes, considering it is a very heavy metal, and then I hand carried the blade. It was in like a plastic bag, and I had a blanket at the time as well, which I sort of shoved through, which made it easier when I put it in the overhead locker. It was a pretty difficult experience, and I know that like TSA was sort of asking questions, and I was like, yeah, it's like an LED sort of light thing that I got from Disneyland, because like I imagine LAX probably see a couple of these throughout their time. But yeah, I would definitely try and wrap it up, or even maybe ship it to yourself at home. However, if you're international, that can be quite expensive. But in terms of build, this thing is really high quality just because of how heavy it is. Like it shows how sturdy it is, but it is also a collector's item. Like I wouldn't duel with this, I wouldn't battle, I wouldn't necessarily spin it either just because of how heavy it is. Like it's fun to swing around and like play the noises, and just like I really want to get like some sort of stand to like prop it up on just so I can have it out on display because it looks really, really cool. It's also a really good, I guess, like prop if you're taking photos or if you do cosplay and things like that, though it's certainly not as bright as I feel like some of the other lightsabers are. I've heard people talk about how NeoPixel is really the one you want to go for, but I think if you're like me and you just like want to have a cool lightsaber because it's a prop that you enjoy, I think the Disney ones are a really, really good option, and just the fact that it's customized makes it feel a little bit more special to me, which at the end of the day is why I went and did this experience to begin with. But is it really worth the money? I mean, I don't necessarily know. There are definitely cheaper lightsabers out there if you just want a lightsaber, and I think you're gonna get much better value out of them. But you know, it's really special having like a custom built one. Like I'm really glad that I did it. I don't necessarily regret it, but I don't ever think I would do this again, and I don't think it's definitely the right fit for everyone either. It was a really cool experience. It looks really cool, and I've had a lot of fun with it, but just with the amount that I've actually used it and turned it on, that is what really turns me away from saying, yes, absolutely go and do it. I had a lot of fun and I really like it, and I'm glad that I went and did it and spent the money on it. However, it's not going to be something you're going to use all the time. So if you are just after like a one-off sort of lightsaber just to have in your life, maybe do check out those other versions. But if you want a custom one and you really want to go and do that experience, it definitely is worth it, and you will have a lot of fun and feel like probably your money is well spent. It is very expensive and it is a really big ask. I would not recommend this to everyone, but if you've been tossing and turning whether I do it or whether I don't, I highly recommend booking in an appointment and actually trying this thing out. It's really cool to have as a Star Wars collector. Also, if you're like me and you have a lot of Lego Star Wars, it's a really nice tool, I think, to like add to your collection that's not something that is Lego, like mixing it up and having like a lightsaber. I probably should add like some Funko Pops onto like my Star Wars shelf really to like round it all out, but overall it's really, really cool. But let me know in the comments down below your lightsaber recommendations, and if you have ever considered doing the Savi workshop experience yourself. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time, I'll see you later.